Hey folks, welcome to the sideboard. My name is Grenton, and most of you might know me as a MMORPG streamer or esports caster. What you might not know is I've been a really big fan of Magic the Gathering for many years now, and I'm finally going to be taking the plunge into TCG content with my new community called the sideboard. I wanted to start the first video with a deck that is very near and dear to my heart, and as you guys know, I like explaining stuff, I like teaching people things, so we're going to be starting off with a deck tech for Cleopatra, Exiled Pharaoh. This deck is obviously very near and dear to my heart, as I have a full sleeve that, all about Egyptian mythology. It's been something that I've been super passionate about growing up, and being Greek myself, I had to obviously build a deck around Cleopatra. I do want to take a moment to really shout out the Mormonator, otherwise known as Josh. He has been, a mentor for me in the EDH and CEDH scene. And while this isn't a CEDH deck, he had a very big hand in building this deck and helping me kind of assemble my vision and bring it to life. But this deck sits in the high-powered casual bracket. With the new bracket system, that would be bracket 4. It's optimized, resilient, and it's dripping with flavorful synergy that comes straight out of the Egyptian mythos. Before we jump into it, you can do me a favor and give the video a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. There's going to be a lot more TCG videos to come. But without further ado, let's jump into Cleopatra, Exiled Pharaoh with a deck that I like to call Queen of Attrition. Let's start with Cleopatra herself. Cleopatra, Exiled Pharaoh comes packed with 2 standout abilities. For 2 generic and Golgari, black and green, you'll get a legendary creature, human noble, who has the following abilities. Allies. At the beginning of your end step, you put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 other target legendary creatures. That steady growth engine is what helps your board scale as the game goes on. Betrayal. Now this is where things get spicy. Whenever a legendary creature with any kind of counter on it dies, not just 1/1 counters, you draw a card for each counter on it and lose 2 life. This means -1/-1 counters, +1/+1 counters, and even unusual ones like ability counters all work. And crucially, this isn't just your creatures. It triggers off opponents' legendary creatures as well. If they've got counters on it and they die, you're drawing cards. Now pair that with something like Black Sun Zenith, and you've got a true powerhouse. It sweeps the board by dumping -1/-1 counters on everything. If your opponent's legendary creatures are out, they now die with multiple counters on them, feeding Cleopatra's betrayal draw engine. And now, with something like the Ozolith out, when your creatures die with those -1/-1 counters on them, you can move those to the Ozolith and pretty much hold up a shotgun to any of your opponent's creatures. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can move those counters onto any creature on the battlefield. So once people start rebuilding their board, you kind of have that out to almost politic and threaten people with. Now where the fun begins. Let's get into the combos that make this deck tick. While Cleopatra, Exiled Pharaoh is a powerhouse of synergy with her ability to trigger off legendary creatures, this deck leans a bit less into the Legends Matters aspect of her design, and instead focuses around more of using Cleopatra as a powerful draw engine that enables the deck's various combo-based win conditions. Cleopatra's Betrayal ability will create card advantage for you that'll fuel the thematic and combo-driven win cons that, while powerful, also feel thematic to the deck and Cleopatra as a character. The first combo we're going to talk about is Shield Dread, Bolas' Citadel, and Sensei's Divining Top. This is a classic infinite draw and drain loop. So when you activate Sensei's Divining Top, you'll be able to draw a card that'll trigger Shield Dread to gain you 2 life. You can now cast Top off the top of your library using Bolas' Citadel, losing 1 life. Looping this over and over will net you 1 life every time you draw a card, and it'll also allow you to draw your entire deck. This now will allow you to sculpt a perfect hand, or if you set up for this and you have the extra mana to spare, you can move right into one of the following combos and close out the game. One of my favorite cards in this deck is Nest of Scarabs, and you'll notice it's in a lot of these combos. So the first combo that we're going to talk about that'll actually help you close out a game is Nest of Scarabs, Blowfly Infestation, and any Blood Artist effect. So for this, you'll need to set up a situation where a creature with 1 toughness gets a -1/-1 counter and dies. Nest of Scarabs then will trigger, making you a 1/1 insect. Blowfly Infestation will see that a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it died, and then it'll put another counter on a 1 toughness creature. That creature dies, rinse and repeat. So Blood Artist effects, like Zulaport Cutthroat or Yara, will drain the table each loop. It's a beautiful engine of slow, painful death, just like how Cleopatra would have liked it. Another combo here is Yawgmoth, Thrawn Physician, Nest of Scarabs, and again, any Blood Artist effect. This one's a bit more manual, but it's deadly effective. You'll activate Yawgmoth to sacrifice a token, placing a -1/-1 counter on another creature. That'll trigger Nest of Scarabs, making another token. Do it again, and now you loop this with any Blood Artist effect, drawing cards, draining life, and clearing the board. You usually won't find a direct win with this combo alone, but it will let you clear the board and dig deep into your deck until you draw into a more efficient win condition. It's a control tool just as much as it is a value engine. A bit of a secret commander in this deck obviously is Cleopatra. So comboing her with Blowfly Infestation and any Blood Artist effect will allow you to, once again, drain the table. So you'll need to start with 2 creatures with 1 toughness each. A -1/-1 counter goes on 1, triggering Cleopatra to make a snake. Blowfly then hits another creature, which dies, triggering Cleopatra again. Tokens loop, and Blood Artist finishes the table. This combo really ties into the deck's Egyptian feel, snakes, poison, attrition. You get the drill. Now let's pair both Yawgmoth and Cleopatra, shall we? So we have Yawgmoth, Cleopatra, and again, a Blood Artist effect. This is more flexible of a combo, but you do need 2 additional creatures in play for this to work. So once again, you'll sacrifice a token using Yawgmoth, putting a -1/-1 counter on one of your opponent's creatures. Cleopatra gives you more token, Blood Artist drains, and Yawgmoth draws you cards. This will almost always grind the table out, even if they try to interrupt a part of it. The goal here isn't to win with this combo, but much like the previous Yawgmoth combo, this lets you clear out the board and draw into a stronger win condition or set up a win for a following turn. Next up, from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we got Bristly Bill, and we got him paired up with Devoted Druid. This is a +1/+1 counter engine with a huge payoff. Devoted Druid does need at least 5 +1/+1 counters on it for this combo to work. This can be done just through Bristly Bill himself, or more hidden lines like using the Ozolith to dump a bunch of 1/1 counters on the Druid, or with Call of the Ring in the deck, making Devoted Druid your ring bearer will promote it and make it a legendary creature, which now becomes an eligible target for Cleopatra's Allies ability, where you can give the Devoted Druid a +1/+1 counter at each of your end steps. So once your Devoted Druid has 5 1/1 counters on them, you will use Bristly Bill's ability to double the amount of counters. Then you can use Devoted Druid's ability to put a -1/-1 counter on it, which will remove a +1/+1 counter from the Druid, and you can repeat this process over and over again to create infinite green mana. Finale of Devastation is a possible outlet here. You can pump your board if there are already other 1/1 creatures elsewhere, and then a legendary creature getting very big and then dying with Cleopatra out will also allow you to draw a bunch of cards. So this is a very flexible combo that you have multiple uses for the infinite green mana, which again is something I absolutely love about this deck, is the combos are compact, but there are so many different lanes and streets to go down when you're trying to figure out how you want to win the game. Into our next infinite mana combo, we have our friend Necroticus paired with the Devoted Druid and Channeler Initiate. So the prerequisites for this is you need the Necroticus in play, and you need the Devoted Druid and the Channeler Initiate in your graveyard. So you'll tap Necroticus for a green since it has the Devoted Druid's activated ability, and then you can activate the Devoted Druid's second ability via Necroticus to put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap it. And now you can activate Channeler Initiate's mana ability, again via Necroticus, to remove the counter and add a mana of any color. So this will allow you to not only create infinite green mana, but infinite mana of any color. Once again, possible outlets here are Finale of Devastation, or using this to essentially cast any spells you have in your hand, or pivoting and trying to find another win condition via that mana. Now, you'll probably notice that this deck is light on the traditional interaction, but that's a conscious design choice. With such tight and compact combos and the flexibility that you have in win conditions, you don't need to rely on a pile of removal. Cards like Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, and Toxic Deluge are there for emergencies, but mostly as a Golgari list, you're there to outgrind your opponents. And when your combos are this compact and recursive, like the Yawgmoth or Blowfly loops, you can afford to play fewer reactive spells because your threats double as engines. Add that to utility legends like Massacre Girl, Braids, or Ayara, pair it with any sack outlets like the Phyrexian Tower or Greater Good, and suddenly even your support cards are drawing you extra value through Cleopatra's Betrayal trigger. I do want to take a moment to shout out one of my newly discovered absolute favorite cards in Magic the Gathering, Six. Six is the grinder's dream. It's not just about keeping the cards flowing, it's about staying resilient throughout the game. Even if your opponents try to stop your combos or key interactions, Six lets you find a way to keep things going. Every time your opponents use interaction, Six reloads you. It's a constant cycle of value that plays into the attrition-based nature of the deck. Cleopatra's a deck that really rewards understanding your lines, careful planning, and being able to outlast your opponents. But once you understand the combos and you get super comfortable with them, this deck becomes extremely deadly. I want to take another moment to shout out the Mormonator, who, without his help, I would not have been able to get my brain ideas onto paper and create this deck. So huge shout out to him. Without him, this deck wouldn't exist. This list is really flavorful, very powerful, and unique. If you're someone who enjoys synergistic engines, a death by 1,000 cuts playstyle, and lore-rich decks that actually do something cool, give this deck a try. I promise you'll be hooked. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and please let me know what your favorite combo is in this deck or how you would have built her differently. I would love to start a conversation with you guys and see where your ideas are. Once again, thank you all for watching. This is my first trading card game video. Hope you liked it. There will be more to come. Welcome to the sideboard, where flavor meets function.